Right now, the average retired couple in America collects about $38,500 a year from Social Security alone before they touch a single dollar of personal savings. That's almost the entire $40,000 number everyone panics about. I want you to meet a couple I'll call Carol and Tom to show you exactly how a real budget like this actually works. Those aren't their real names, but their numbers are absolutely real, and they're both 66 years old right now. They're not just scraping by month to month. They're actually doing just fine, with no panic, no ramen noodles for dinner, and no working until they turn 80. Today I'm going to show you exactly how their math works, using the real numbers, not the scary headlines you see online. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what $40,000 a year actually buys in retirement, and where in the country that money stretches the furthest. If you're 50, 60, or already retired, and you actually want straight numbers instead of Wall Street fear, then hit that subscribe button right now, because straight numbers are all we ever do here on Retire US. So let's start with where this money actually comes from, using Carol and Tom as our real-world example. As of 2026, the average Social Security retirement benefit for one person is a little over $2,000 a month, which works out to about $25,000 a year. For a married couple like Carol and Tom, where both spouses collect benefits, the average combined check comes out to around $3,200 a month, which is that $38,500 number I mentioned earlier. In their case, Social Security alone covers almost the whole target, and a small IRA withdrawal fills in the rest. That's really the whole formula for most people in this situation. Beyond Social Security, there are usually three sources that fill any remaining gap. The first is a modest 401k or IRA account, and you genuinely don't need $500,000 sitting there. Even a $50,000 or $100,000 account, drawn down carefully at around 4 to 5% a year, adds $2,000 to $5,000 of breathing room annually. The second source is a small pension, if you happen to have one, and when you do, it's often the single biggest gap filler in this whole equation. The third source, and this one is becoming more common, is light gig work. Somewhere around 10 hours a week of tutoring, consulting, driving a few shifts, or selling something you enjoy making. Even $500 a month from something like that closes a lot of financial gaps. The real point here isn't that you need all three of these sources at once. $40,000 is usually just Social Security plus one of these three options, not some exotic investment strategy that only wealthy people understand. Now, knowing where the money comes from is only half of this battle. The real question is whether that income survives contact with housing, healthcare, and taxes. That's exactly what we're covering next, starting with the single biggest lever most retirees have. Pillar number one, and honestly the biggest lever of all, is housing. If you're still carrying a mortgage payment into retirement, $40,000 a year gets tight very quickly. But Carol and Tom paid off their house 8 years before retiring, and that single decision changed their entire budget. With a paid-off home, your housing cost isn't a mortgage payment anymore. It's just property tax, insurance, and basic upkeep. And for Carol and Tom, that adds up to about $500 a month. In a lot of the country, that number falls somewhere between $300 and $600. And that difference is exactly what separates simply surviving from actually feeling comfortable. If your home isn't paid off yet, there are two strategies that show up again and again in the data. You can aggressively pay it down during the years right before retirement, or you can downsize into a smaller, fully paid-for home, sometimes in a lower tax area, which we'll get into in just a minute. Housing is usually the biggest fear on paper, but it's rarely the biggest fear in practice. The pillar that actually keeps people up at night is next, and I think the real numbers might genuinely surprise you. Pillar number 2 is healthcare, and I completely understand why it scares people. Because a single hospital stay without proper coverage can wipe out years of careful savings. But Medicare exists specifically to prevent that exact scenario. For 2026, the standard Medicare Part B premium runs about $200 a month per person, with a modest annual deductible on top of that. That premium usually comes straight out of your Social Security check automatically, so you rarely even write a check for it yourself. Add a Medigap or Medicare Advantage plan for both spouses, and for a couple like Carol and Tom, their combined healthcare costs land around $700 a month. Most retirees end up somewhere in that same general range. Is this system perfect? No, it definitely isn't perfect for everyone, and you'll still face some out-of-pocket costs along the way. So shop your coverage options every single fall during open enrollment. But it's a world away from paying full retail price for healthcare on your own, and it's exactly why $40,000 a year is survivable at 65 in a way it simply wouldn't be at 45. So housing and healthcare are both handled. But what about the government's cut of all this? This next part might honestly be the biggest surprise in the entire video. Pillar number 3 is taxes, and this is the part almost nobody explains correctly. Here's the myth everyone believes. I'll retire, and my taxes will crush my fixed income. Here's the reality for 2026 instead. If you're 65 or older, several deductions stack together automatically. There's the regular standard deduction everyone gets. There's a bonus for simply being over 65. And there's a newer, temporary senior deduction on top of both of those. Stack all three together, and a single filer over 65 can shield about $24,000 of income from federal tax entirely. For a married couple where both spouses are over 65, like Carol and Tom, that shielded amount climbs to almost $48,000. Sit with that for a second. Their entire $40,000 income falls comfortably under that number, which means their federal tax bill is close to nothing most years. One quick caveat, that newer senior deduction is temporary, running only from 2025 through 2028, so don't assume it lasts forever. This isn't personalized tax advice for your exact situation, since the details depend on your income mix and your state, but the overall headline holds. The tax system is actually built to be gentler on modest income retirees than most people ever assume. So Social Security covers the income, Medicare handles the healthcare, and the tax code barely touches any of it. There's really only one variable left, and it might matter more than everything else combined. Where you actually live changes every one of these numbers. Some states practically roll out the red carpet for a $40,000 a year retiree, while others quietly tax you at every turn. Tennessee has no state income tax at all, and its overall cost of living runs well below the national average. Mississippi doesn't tax Social Security or most retirement account withdrawals, and it consistently ranks among the cheapest states for housing and everyday costs. South Carolina exempts Social Security from state tax entirely and offers a solid deduction on other retirement income too. Wyoming, South Dakota, and Florida all tax neither Social Security nor other retirement income, with zero state income tax across the board. One important flag before you get too excited. As of 2026, a handful of states still tax Social Security benefits to some degree. So it's worth 5 minutes to check exactly how your own state treats retirement income before you fall in love with a location. I'll drop a link to a current state-by-state guide down in the description below. So let's go back to Carol and Tom one more time and add up their actual month. Housing runs about $500. Healthcare runs about $700. Groceries run around $450. Utilities around $250. And transportation around $300. Everything else, from entertainment to gifts to the occasional surprise expense, comes to about $600 a month. Add all of that up, and their total spending lands around $2,800 a month, out of roughly $3,300 in income. That leaves about $500 a month sitting as a genuine cushion, not a stretch, not a guess, just breathing room. Remember that number I opened this video with, the $38,500 flowing in from Social Security alone? That single number, combined with a paid-off home, real Medicare coverage, a friendly tax picture, and the right state, is what actually built Carol and Tom's cushion. $40,000 a year isn't a scary number. It's a genuinely workable number, as long as you build it on purpose. If you're a few years out from retirement, the best thing you can do this year isn't panic. It's getting specific about your own real numbers. Go look up your actual Social Security estimate over at ssa.gov. Check your own state's real tax rules carefully. Price out exactly what your home would look like fully paid off. I genuinely want to hear from you on this. What does your monthly budget actually look like right where you live? Drop it down in the comments below because I read every single one of them. And honestly, some of the very best information on this entire channel comes from you, not from me. If this video helped you out today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the very next one. Quick disclaimer before you go. This video is for general education only, and it isn't personalized financial, tax, or legal advice. Social Security amounts, Medicare premiums, tax rules, and state laws all change over time, and they vary quite a bit by individual situation. Please always confirm current figures at SSA.gov, Medicare.gov, and IRS.gov. Or better yet, check with a licensed financial advisor or a CPA before making any real retirement decisions.